One of the biggest things I learned as a dad is there's only really one variable to our parenting, and that's how are you going to respond? So your kid is going to act up,
Okay.
they're going to act out, they're going to get sick, they're going to get hurt. The only variable that I've discovered is what am I going to do about it?
Okay.
And you can lose your mind, you can be patient, you can be loving, you got all kinds of choices. You got to figure out which one is going to work for your kid. And I think your ultimate goal of hopefully raising capable, confident humans, grown-ups.
So talk to me a little bit about that, how you're going to respond piece, because as a dad and as a family unit, it's you and your wife. So how you respond can sometimes also include mom as well. So how do you work that out, basically?
That's a good question. And we've had conversations around always being a united front with our kids.
Okay.
So, let's say some behavior occurs and, mom reacts to that behavior, whatever it happens to be. And maybe I disagree, but I back mom up.
Mm-hmm.
Mom and I will talk about it later when the kids aren't around, and we'll hammer it out, what we think might have been better, what we could have done differently, or vice versa. We had a situation the other day. My daughter was having a meltdown. I didn't react so well to it. Right. I turned into a bigger baby than she did. So I excused myself. Mom handled it beautifully. We talked about it after. And I mean, that happens for both of us, no
Correct.
parent is ever
That's correct.
perfect. But that's something my wife and I set out ahead of time, united front, same page. If I don't agree in the moment, I can talk to her about it later.
I think that's a very, I like that concept, and I think that's very important because sometimes and I'm just talking with friends that I know, that sometimes mom and dad are not on the same page. And they're not even talking about it. And what happens, just like employees, they see a weakness and they immediately exploit that weakness.
Yeah.
I don't care whether they're adults or whether they're little people, they learn to exploit it. And if mom and dad are not able to kind of communicate, because yes, you're going to see things differently, and sometimes you're going to react differently. And sometimes it may be the best option, and other times it may not be. But if your partner is not there to kind of support you and talk about that, I see that as where you can possibly run into problems for as parenting.
Yeah, I think, again, and it works in our house that we got each other's back. We set it up ahead of time that we'll always be a united front. And we even say that to our kids. Sorry, mommy and daddy are on the same team. So mom and dad are always going to agree on matters that are this important. And yeah, it's just that communication, really. It's just such a simple thing. Just take a step back and go, hey, what did you think about that interaction? What did you think about how that went down? Mm-hmm. It's not everything. We don't do that. We're not going over the minute details of our day, but if something we run into that's, perplexes us and maybe we don't handle it well, or maybe we did handle it well, and we'll share that information. But my wife and I have that kind of relationship where we're constantly just talking about our day, our life, stuff that happened to us, experiences in general. And the kids obviously play a factor in that, a big part of that. So we can share that information. And
right.
I guess maybe in a lot of ways, man, it's just become a habit. It's just something we do. So we laid it out ahead of time, and it seems to be working a couple of years in.
Great. Now, I think that's a very good strategy. And I mean, that's a strategy that I've employed with my own wife. We talk about sometimes a crisis may be happening, and before either one of us make a decision, we would kind of consult with each other and try to hash it out.
Yeah.
And then once we're able to hash it out, then we can go in front of the kids with the united front. Okay, no, this is how it's going to be. And I find that's the best way, because then it's avoid what we call splitting.
Mm-hmm.
That it avoids that manipulation piece.
Yep. And it's consistency for them too.
Correct.
they see that mom and dad are always a team. I think that's a nice thing. So good for you, man. Yeah, it's not easy to do. I know lots of people struggle with that. So
Yeah, because I've also seen the flip side where mom and dad, they both have different perspectives on parenting,
yep.
and then at the same time, they don't really talk about it, how
Mm-hmm.
to handle it.
Yep.
And then what you will then see is then, well, dad will say no on this issue. Then the kids run to mom. Mom says, well, sure you can.
Yeah.
And then we have a more of a major problem at that point.
I totally agree. And if it's something big, it's even worse.
Correct.
You get
And
a house divided.
that's right. As the kids get older, they get more adapt to manipulation, and then the cost actually becomes higher as the kids get older.
Yeah, I imagine the impact of that must be insane.
Right. So I think that's a really good, strategy that you and your wife have employed.
Thanks.
And
Yeah, it seems to be working.
yeah, and it's worked for me as well. So I would encourage more parents to really communicate on their views of parenting, and they need to kind of hash it out with each other, and then come as a united front.
Yeah.
That's right.
You plan everything else in your life, right? You plan
Right.
out your job, you plan out your day. Why wouldn't you plan out the most important thing you have to do, and that's raise your kids? So nobody's perfect at it, but I think if you bring a bit of consciousness and have a goal in mind, at least you'll have a direction anyway, and it won't be as overwhelming as it can be. So that variable piece, it becomes a little more clear what you're aiming for. I think when you have something in mind, just set a goal in your head, and then it should hopefully dictate your behavior towards your kids, because that's the behavior they're going to learn ultimately. But at least that's the way I see it.
Okay. Well, let me ask you something, because now you said something. We plan everything in our lives. Why shouldn't we plan out how we parent? Now, you have friends that are, that are parents.
Yep.
In your experience, do they tend to plan out that part of their lives?
Some do and some don't.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's evident which ones do and it's evident which ones don't.
Right.
And it's not, again, man, it's not about being perfect or having it nailed down, but having a goal in mind to try to raise a capable and accountable human being. And it's something that my wife and I actually, we put it on paper, what we were looking to do. Yeah. So actually, again, I'll give myself a gratuitous plug here. If you go to my website, that process is actually laid out on the homepage. So happydadding.ca.